Welcome to another edition of the program Frontier Opening Bell. I'm Temple Ashaju. Onyeka Ijeoma joins us from Vetiva Capital Management. Thank you for coming through. Bosun Omofaye here at Frontier Africa Reports. Thank you for being with us on the show this morning as well. Let's look at the market status from yesterday. We had Nigerian Stock Exchange now positive by some 0.12%. Ivory Coast, we have the BRVM there. It was also positive by 26 basis points. The Egyptian Stock Exchange in Cairo was also positive, opened the week up by some 80 basis points, while Kenya, the Nairobi Stock Exchange, was down by 82 basis points. And Johannesburg Stock Exchange went lower as well to open the week bearish by 88 basis points. But look at the East African headlines before us. IFC, that's the International Finance Corporation, is to invest some 215 million Kenyan shillings in venture capital firm Antler East Africa. KRA, and that will be Kenya Revenue Agency, records some 21 billion Kenyan shillings collection via alternative dispute resolution system. In Ethiopia, over $107 million earned via coffee exports in 1 month. And MTN Rwanda is to list on the Rwandan Stock Exchange on May the 4th, 2021. Madagascar Group, Axian, buying Tigo Tanzania from Meliko. Bosun, you're the man to help us deal with these headlines in the eastern part of Africa. Let's get to it.
I love exchange listing by any day, any time. And the more listings you have, the better for everyone. You see, look, MTN and more of these telcos need to list on a number of African exchanges. We need to deepen the market. And when we can have these startups in digital telecommunication, in fintech and what have you, we need to have this whole spread of technology companies listing on various exchanges across the continent. Look, they're raising money fast and furious, whether they are private equity or venture capital money or whatever. They need to come to the market to list. And I love this that MTN is doing in Rwanda. It will deepen the Rwandan market, small as it were. Remember the last company they got listed was Simawa. Simawa was a cement company which was listed a couple of months ago. That deepened the market. The liquidity moved up a little because that's the largest cement company. Now they have another MTN. It's going to be a very big game. They've seen MTN in Uganda. They haven't listed in Kenya. Again, you understand Safaricom will try to play a bit of a fencing there. You know, understand how the game business go. But again, listing in Rwanda next door to Kenya will make the Kenyan markets and the authorities begin to salivate if they are comfortable with Safaricom or they want MTN to also come onto the bus. But if you have MTN on the Nairobi bus and Safaricom, I tell you, both of them will account for almost 90% of the Kenya stock market, and that's going to be a different ball game altogether. You have the whole CMA scrambling. That's going to be one piece of this. The whole issue around the what do you call it? The Kenya Revenue Authority making more revenue. Look, this is how the way to go. You need to go for alternative dispute resolution. Is the way to go. I love that story. Look for alternative dispute resolution without taking everybody to court or shutting down the company. Then you get nothing. Now they're getting about 22 billion shillings through alternative dispute resolution. If you just go straight to court, you're going to lock down everything. This is another good news. Then the one from Madagascar with Tigo Tanzania and all of that, that is also good in terms of the telecom industry and what we are seeing there. On the final note, for me, the Ethiopian earning about $107 million from coffee in 1 month is another good story of how much agriculture play we have on our hands and how we can maximize it across all the jurisdictions on the continent.
Thank you very much for these, Bosun. Onyeka Ijeoma, I know that your firm earlier this morning had a bit of a forecast and explainings around MTN Nigeria. I mean, it's good news as well that MTN is getting listed in Rwanda. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, much like Bosun said, it's really great that the market is deepening. Very often we see on African bourses that these bourses are concentrated in around certain sectors, largely the financial services sector, without much depth in other key sectors. And for an investor in the equity market, you want to have some level of exposure to diversity for you to explore, different investment options, and this is always going to be positive. But I think think the one very interesting story in that East African space is the IFC, pumping in some money into the VC firm Antler. This is just a continuation of the increasing appetite for startups in the African space. I have to say that we are seeing, the world is showing that they view Africa as the next growth frontier with their dollars, and it's showing with the amount of VC funding that is coming into the market, and I hope we continue to see this.
Right, thank you so much for those contributions. Let's move on down to the Western African headlines, where Access Bank is to buy some 78.15% stake in Bank ABC in Botswana. We have United Bank for Africa releasing its first quarter 2021 earnings. Profit before tax was positive by more than 245%. Profit after tax rose by more than 27% as well. NASD listed Friesland Campina profit dips by 29% in 2020. You have CSCS, that's the Central Securities Clearing System, that's the Capital Market Depository of Nigeria. Profits rising by more than 41% to some 6.9 billion naira. Moody is given a new rating to Ghana, B3 outlook negative on coronavirus and of course debt servicing status. You have Moody's also speaking to Mali, giving them a positive rating there on the moderate debt, of course expecting cutting to lead the recovery in that economy. Let me hear your thoughts on these headlines, Wanyeka, before we go to Bosun.
Okay. I think the very interesting one is the Access Bank story. Over the past 1 year, we've seen Access Bank, make significant moves into the Pan-African space. We've seen them acquire banks in South Africa, in Zambia, and just generally looking to spread their tentacles across the entire sub-Saharan Africa space, largely in light of the AFCFTA. And I think it tells me one thing. A lot of people, there's still this huge debate over the merits and over the expected efficacy of the AFCFTA and the impact it will have on the African continent, and all by investors and analysts alike. However, it seems like the banks are all in on it. We might be a little cautious as analysts as to the impacts in the short to medium, in the long term. Banks are placing big bets on the AFCFTA, and I do expect to see even more plays from Access Bank as well as from some of the other key traditional financial institutions. And then just looking at some of the earnings that have been pouring in, the UBA, for example, releasing their results, positive results. PAT was up, however, maybe not as much as we had initially expected. The PAT growth was driven by strong non-interest income, which was a continuation of what we saw in 2020. Fees and commission, digital, driven by increased digital technology adoption in Nigeria and across Africa due to the pandemic. We continue to see that play out in Q1 21. Interest income was kind of flat, largely because we've seen interest rates a lot lower than they were as at the start of Q1 in 2020. However, a more curtailed operating expenses, more curtailed loan loss provisions was able to drive the gains from the gross earnings down to the profitability of UBA. I should add that this was less impressive than analysts were expecting. However, it is still quite positive in an economic environment that is significantly challenging for the financial institutions. Looking at the CSCS in 2020, of course, it's no fluke. It was expected. 2020, we saw, given the attractiveness of the market and the significant boom we saw when the economy reopened, the significant boom in activity on the Nigerian stock exchange, especially driven by the weak attractiveness of the fixed income yields, driving investors into the equity market. We saw sustained levels of increased activity in the Nigerian stock exchange, which obviously has a positive, knock-on effect on the CSCS. 2021, it's really going to be tough. Yields are rising in the fixed income market. There's still a lot of uncertainty in the equity market, in the Nigerian equity market, even as we tend to believe that the economy has started to rebound from the impact of the pandemic. There's still going to be some knock-on effects, and we are starting to see slightly reduced investment levels or activity levels across the NSE, and this will definitely affect CSCS performance in 2021 if this is sustained in this trajectory.
Right, and thank you so much, Onyeka, for all of those comments there. Bosun.
Yes, a quick one on the on the Nigerian markets. The NASD listed Friesland Campina, which is the maker of pig milk. It's another good story, looking at nearly 200 billion naira in revenue. That tells you that last year, with the sit at home, kids at home, parents also working from home, folks were drinking coffee. For those who are not doing tea, those who are drinking akamu, and a whole lot of things like that. Those who are in local, all kind of local kunu, whatever it is that requires milk. So it's a whole big market in terms of for the milk makers, whether it is a pig milk or Nestle as well, and others who produce beverages. So it was a good year in the manner of speaking. But the profit went down. The whole point about 30% decline in profit was because they made some contributions, almost R1 billion to the COVID-19 pandemic relief fund. They talk about the FX stress that they also have. So we understand that, but it's a good company, very good news as it were.
Yeah, Bosun, but just a quick follow-up to this comment or this headline there. You know that Friesland is also one of the companies that became the off-takers for the dairy farms in Nigeria so that we can localize the production of milk. I mean, how does that come into play in this case?
That will be, I think that will start coming on their books from this year moving forward. I think we can expect that to reflect on their books from 2021 in terms of the backward integration, which Nigeria is working on for local dairies, cheese, milk, and other derivatives, yogurt, whatever it is you can get from those cows that are in. So I think we'll look for those details in the numbers when they report for 2021, putting the 2020 pandemic year behind them, then we can see maybe a better horizon in that particular space. For Moody's latest on Ghana and Mali, we're looking to these numbers. Ghana is looking a little bit pressured based on the debt servicing according to that report from Moody's yesterday. Again, because they're taking on a whole lot of external financing, and that is impacting Ghana's economy. For Mali, you'll be surprised that this country has a huge foreign inflow from gold, one of the strongest in West Africa after Ghana, competing very seriously with gold export and gold FX from gold trade. Then you have cotton as well. The IAFDB is supporting Mali and Burkina Faso strongly, including ZIM Bank, on their cotton production. And this is a country with very small external borrowing. So to all intents and purposes, Mali seems to be handling things better. Look at the outlook, stable. Nigeria is doing negative. And that tells you that, look, these countries may look very small and sometimes off the radar in terms of the news headlines. But when you drill down, they seem to have a better handle on their finances and their fiscal and monetary issues.
Many thanks for these, Bosun. Thanks a great deal. This now takes us to the South African markets, where we've got this very interesting story. One of the key bottlers that we have in Africa. Coca-Cola is planning an IPO, and that's in the next 18 months. It's be listed secondarily on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, and of course primarily on the Amsterdam Stock Exchange in the Netherlands, which of course connects to Friesland, a key story that Bossen is really interested in. You have Moody and Robots getting some 2.3 billion rands mining contracts in Australia. Cash Build Group's revenue was up by more than 21% in Zimbabwe. It is expected that they will export bulk water to South Africa. And Zimbabwe still, you have African Sun recording some 55% drop in revenue to some 1.8 billion Zimbabwean dollars. And in the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, they are to pay South Africa's Dig Oil some $300 million to settle the 13-year-old dispute, something that has been brewing for so long, actually. Oyeka, I'm very sure you're interested in the Coca-Cola IPO again, because they had delisted from the Nigerian Stock Exchange many years ago, and now they're coming back to get listed in one of the exchanges in Africa, and that will be South Africa.
Coca-Cola is sweet, I know. Sonia is interested. I know the IPO is sweet as well.
Oh, I mean, I guess maybe first is to make some clarifications that these are entirely different companies. The company that was listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange was the Nigerian bottling company. That's the Coca-Cola Hellenic bottling company in Nigeria, which is separate from the Coca-Cola company in itself, which is the Atlanta-based company in Georgia. And the company that is going to be listed on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange as well as the Euronext will be is the CCBA, which is the Coca-Cola bottling company for Africa, I think, which is basically a combination of the Southern African bottling company and the Eastern African bottling company, bottling companies which manage the production and distribution processes in Southern and East Africa and account for, I think, about 40% of all Coke consumption in the entire Africa, not just sub-Saharan Africa. So a massive company, and it's always, like Worsens said, it's always very important for these large companies to show some representation on the stock exchanges of the countries that they are playing in, especially because it's the stock exchange is meant to be a representation of the economy. It's meant to replicate movements in the economy. Investor sentiment is meant to show on the economy based on the based on how much they are willing to throw their dollars or naira or rand into these companies, and I think it's going to be positive. I'm perhaps a little surprised that the primary listing is going to be on the Euronext. Maybe that might be due to the capitalization size and fears that it might be quite large. But then we already have companies like NASPAS on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, so it's for me it's a little surprising. Maybe
thank you very much, Onyeka. The particular company will be Coca-Cola Beverages Africa, actually. Bossen, the floor is yours.
Yes, the last time I tasted Coca-Cola is very sweet, and look at the 40%. Coca-Cola is huge in East and Southern Africa. Just look at the Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya, Rwanda, all the way down to Mozambique, all the way down. It's all Coca-Cola that you see. So considering the size of the market and the appetite for this market, the whole logistics within that corridor is a whole lot more efficient and better than we have in West Africa. Don't let us just kid ourselves. So I know they will do GSC listing, then they will do Amsterdam, like Oyeka said, because NASPAS dealing and all that, and you have the Proceus, which is listed on the Amsterdam Stock Exchange. The GSC is the king of exchanges in Africa. Give it to them. So there's liquidity in that market. The currency is also one of the most stable among the emerging markets, and such a good hold. So they have a hold that it takes to list it there. Maybe there will be a bit of additional listing on one or two exchanges within the East African community, maybe the Nairobi Securities Exchange. We don't have the details, but I love this story that yes, we're getting another one big or international, multinational company listed within our jurisdiction. It's also some news when you look at the African Sun story in Zimbabwe. That's all about tourism, hospitality, and leisure. Went bonkers last year, so there's no need to overflog the issue of what COVID-19 did. 55% decline in profit or in revenue. That shows how bad things were. The Murray and Roberts deal in Australia was also some good news. Mining guys say there's a whole lot of handshake between Australia and South African miners. Many of them are the parent holdings are in Australia, but they're doing business in South Africa. So the whole mining industry is huge. It's a global thing, and you need to be within that chain to know who is doing what somewhere. You could be based in South Africa and own a mine in Australia, in Ghana, in Guinea, in Sierra Leone, elsewhere, and all of that in Botswana. So it's a whole, or Zambia as the case may be. So this is one other good news there. Zimbabwe is selling water to South Africa. Well, what can we say? It's business. Sorry, everything is business these days. If you can pay for it and I have it, I give it to you. You know, Zimbabwe is one country very rich in agriculture and natural resources, one of the most endowed on the African continent. But when you look at 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago, you've seen the economy not just at the bottom of the pyramid, and you just take whatever it will. Let's see how things move on.
Thank you very much, Bosen, for these contributions. Let's move on now and finish off with our last lap, which is the Northern African headlines. We've got EgyptAir signing a memorandum of understanding with Sudan Airways to strengthen aviation ties. Bank NBI eyes some 4 billion Egyptian pounds in profit. CI Capital names Hisham Gohar as the chief executive officer. And in Tunisia, the trade deficit worsens in the first quarter of 2021. Bank in Morocco reports NBI of some 400.5 million dinars, and that's 1.05% contraction compared to what was recorded in the year of financial year 2019. Bosen.
I'll say amen to that, to the amen banks. Sorry, I say amen because that's but again, banks faced a whole lot of pressure last year due to the type and the structure of economies in which where they operate. So let's have that at the back of our mind. The trade deficit for Tunisia, again, those folks they're trying to rework whatever, but the scars of 2020 is yet to go away.
Thank you so much, Bosen. It's also good that we'll be seeing some kind of a bilateral ties strengthening between Egypt and Sudan, something that we don't at least have to go to Europe again to bring in some more folks to come and work for us. It shows that we have confidence in ourselves. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your presence on the show this morning and for your wonderful analysis. They're very much welcome here on Frontier Opening Bell. Onyeka Ijoma from Vetiver Capital Management, thanks a great deal for your thoughts. Bosen Omofaye, I appreciate your editorial judgments as well and considerations. Thanks a great deal. This has been the show for the day. I'm Temple Anshaji. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.